the Lego is not out of its box, disorganized with a knobble showing. We need it to all be organized and connected. They are not for infants. They are for human movement. We are creating shapes. This is what we do. Our movement is patterning and shapes.
Yeah.
This skeletal frame is not following the rules of our musculoskeletal system and our joint mechanics.
Welcome to the Visionary podcast, where we discuss science, medicine, physical health, and mental well-being. Breathing. Mm-hmm. When I run anyhow, just to survive the run. I get out of breath very, very quickly. Please teach me how I could coordinate my breath with my stride or whatever I should be coordinating it with.
Yeah, I would just breathe and not worry about coordinating at all. In time, people, if you start to tune in, you start to become aware that when you're really feeling good, there might be a rhythm of to your footfalls, three strides to an in-breath, and maybe 4 strides to an out-breath. And the in-breath and the out-breath go in and movements. That comes in time. Initially, I would keep the effort levels low enough that you're not huffing and puffing. Because if the launch point is huffing and puffing, your launch point is that of discomfort and effort. And as soon as you have too much effort, there's too much tension in the system, and then you can't tap into your efficiency of freedom of movement because you're too tense, you're trying too hard. So let your breath actually guide you to easier movement. Maybe just take a few, that swear word, walking steps during a run. Calm the heart rate down, calm the breathing down, and then go back into the trot. You can use your level of breathing as your barometer of properly getting fitter instead of struggling, developing cardiovascular strength, because you're not doing battle with your body. You're not fighting it. You're going with how the human being moves. So you're trotting for a bit and you think, oh, that's now effortful breathing. I'm just going to walk for 10 paces and then go into the trot again. So it's I think people jump in way too far down the line, doing complicated things like trying to coordinate their breathing before they've even found comfort. So you're just going to be in an endless struggle if you leap in that deep.
Yeah, this is a very silly question, but I have to ask: how do I breathe? Like inhale, exhale.
It's not a silly question. It's so common. And
how do I breathe?
A lovely way of limiting the amount of effort you're putting in is to just close your mouth. So you're just breathing. You need to take tissues. It's counterintuitive. If we are always moving with our mouth open, it dries the mucous membranes so that we don't realize we're overproducing mucus because we keep drying the mucous membranes out. So when you decide, oh, I'm going to enjoy this run because I'm only going at the effort level possible whilst keeping my mouth shut, there will be copious amounts of mucus that you are now noticing because you are in overproduction mode. Eventually, you won't be in overproduction mode because things will calm. They'll find a better way because you're not continually drying them out.
Oh, I'm happy to hear that because sometimes I drool from my nose.
Yes.
And I feel embarrassed.
Yeah, so just take some tissues. It's all fine. It's human. It's the messy part of the human, but it's fine. You just close your mouth. You don't need to think that I'm going to breathe in through my nose and out through my mouth. Just close your mouth. That's it. Yeah. It's a nicer look. I always think that the mouth open is a bit gormless looking and slack-jawed. So I think close your mouth and smile.
Yeah. You talk about a practice called foot wiping. What is that?
Yes. So that came about because what I was doing in my education seemed not to always work. So the treatment protocol for hypersensitive feet seemed not necessarily to be working in the way that it was taught it would work. And I wondered why. I wondered, and the idea came from the veterinary world, where the vets know that, so I was told by a vet, if a cow or a lamb or any animal, four-legged animal, is born by cesarean section, so a farm animal that needs to get onto their feet immediately, if they're born by cesarean section, this reflex that enables them to immediately walk doesn't emerge. So they have to stimulate it. They have to go squeeze as hard as they can from the armpits of the animal down to the hips of the animal to emerge this reflex that would have emerged if they'd come out the birth canal. And then they can get up and walk and survive. And I thought, well, that's really interesting. So sometimes these reflexes that instigate movement in the first place don't emerge, and sometimes they seem to stay there unwanted. They're just still there in varying degrees. So maybe when feet are hypersensitive and the strategy around the hypersensitivity is rigidity, which is what I see commonly, more commonly than hyposensitive. So, squeamish feet, oh, don't touch my feet, don't touch my feet. And you want to bounce around and run on them, and they're not moving, which is not nice for knees, not nice for feet, never mind knees. So I thought, well, I wonder if we just need to use these sensitivities up. I wonder if we just scrub them away, as if, maybe socks were put on too soon and there wasn't enough information to modulate the initial reflexive actions. I don't know. So it started as an experiment, but because I can measure everything, it became consistently completely brilliant. And you think, oh, so this is all we need to do. So it's not rolling on a spiky board, it's rubbing. So I just called it foot wiping because that's what we were doing. So with bare feet, just as if you've got mud on the soles of your shoes, you're wiping your feet on a doormat, but you haven't got any shoes on. Then it became a little bit more specific in that I was saying, okay, every single millimeter is important, it turns out. So we need to get into the outside edges and the inside edges. Where the toes meet the foot became a very particular point of concern, and the toe tips. And there's videos on Insta where I demonstrate all of this. It's all there, out there, free.
Amazing.
So it was being thorough. And what happened was feet seemed to then instantly become freer, instantly. So I will have somebody in clinic, their feet don't move. They're walking on them, but the 33 jointed foot is not moving. It's just like inert. And you think, goodness me, no toes lifting, nothing. Or the toes are reaching to the sky madly, but it's not picking the foot up. So it's just toe movement, but no foot movement, so no ankle movement, not nice for knees. So I started seeing instant results. So then I thought, right, let's have a little group, my little research group. So I had 15 guinea pigs. So can you wipe your feet twice a day whilst you're cleaning your teeth? I don't want to impose on your life. And let's do a start and an end. Wipe your feet twice a day whilst cleaning your teeth as thoroughly as you can. And one of my friends, she was a policeman, and she had to admit, she said, well, I only did it 1 minute in the morning because I just didn't have time in the morning. I just had to go on duty, but I did 2 minutes in the evening. And one of the ladies was a lovely marathon runner. She loved her marathons, and she was a barefoot runner, Vibram 5 fingers, the tickliest feet ever. And her marathon time was always 5.5 hours, always 5.5 hours, 5.5 hours, 5.5 hours. And then all she did was this for 3 months. And her next marathon was 5 hours. And all of them measured better. But whilst they were doing it, everybody was measuring better. Everybody was measuring better. Better movement through the feet, opening the stride, easier, more comfortable, all the good stuff. And you think, okay, so it is literally, I interpret that in my non-expert brain as we have these receptive fields in our feet that in the first instance, when we're teeny tiny, instigate movement. So there's a stroke to the sole of the foot and toes ping up all over the place. And we go, this little piggy went to market, this little piggy went home, and, all of these little playful games, and toes are moving all over the place. It's all very cute. And they are there to start our movement journey. They are not for infants. They are for human movement.
Yeah.
And all it is initial movement patterns that morph. So they're reflexes. Reflexes travel 180 to 270 miles an hour. So it's done. For you, to you, done. It starts there, and then it modulates into all the shapes that the tickles create, the receptive fields create, the shapes, but without the sensitivity, because we can't have it that every time, because these receptive fields will respond in that way with toes going all over the place, either with a stroke or with traction through the tissue. But this is us traveling through our feet. If we travel through our feet, our body weight plus gravity is going to lengthen that tissue, which would trigger the receptive field to some degree. So toes ping up madly, going through leather uppers, not just socks, but leather uppers. Or the strategy is the central nervous system seems to block the movement. So there's no movement of the foot. But then the foot isn't free to move, and you want to bounce around on it when you're running. So it seems like we use up these receptive fields that didn't, for some reason, get modulated into freedom of movement. So we have the movement pattern, but not the automaticity of the initial reflex. But it seems we can modulate it at any time. So it didn't get modulated, softened, tamed, calmed. But we can do it at any time because we're neuroplastic. And it's like it's the hardwiring in the brain, but actually nothing is hardwired because it's all soft-wired, because we can change it.
Hi, I'm Hella, your host today. If you're enjoying what you see, please hit that lovely subscribe button. It will mean a lot to us. Or maybe a small podcast now, but with your support, we can build this channel together, one step at a time. Thank you so much for being part of it. You mentioned infants, and I believe you referenced childhood a few times now. How would child development when we were little, just learning how to walk and how to run, affect injury patterns or movement patterns when we grow up later in life? I believe you have a Lego story.
Yes. Oh, thank you for asking. It is my, apart from running, it's another passion. It is, because it's not infant development. It is movement development. It just is that the infants get to do it first, but it's not theirs. It isn't theirs. And it's the expertise that gets boxed. Okay, so that element of movement belongs here. And now we have an age group. Okay, so it only belongs to these little teeny tiny people. And we know that's not true. We know, sadly, with all of the evidence, there's even films being made of it. One of them was Concussion with Will Smith, which is the story of the NFL players who, lots of bonks on the head, and the movement patterning that was organized becomes disorganized.
Because of the concussion?
Because of the concussions, the multiple concussions. So they rehab, the injury that happened to them, the shoulder, the back, the knee, whatever it might be. But they're never the same again because, recover from the concussion, but nobody goes back to check what I then dubbed pieces of Lego. So the Lego story was simply my way to try and get across in this world that is dominated by strength conditioning type protocols. It's an and. So that story is incomplete. And can we also just check to make sure that this sliver of brain science that I shoehorned into 17 minutes of this film, and I sent it to one of my teachers with holding my breath. If I got this right, I tell stories in my head because it helps me understand. Have I got the story right? Was the question. And it turned out that he said to me, "Oh, I enjoyed that story, and I think that it's a good way of showing the brain science here." So I was like, "Okay, phew," and breathe. So the Lego story is the reflexive action is the knobbly bits on the pieces of Lego.
Yes.
And the shape of the Lego is the shape of the movement reflex. So as if, for instance, you stroke the foot and the toe pings up, as if, for instance. And we initially, the knobbly bit is the dominant force, but the more we use it, the more it becomes less dominant and can connect with other pieces of Lego to build more complex movement. So in the end, the knobbles are always there. They are always there, but they're soft enough to not be standing proud all by themselves. They can connect with other pieces of Lego to create more complex movement. And if you have enough trauma, and this can be both emotional trauma and physical trauma, and particularly head trauma, you have a big bonk to the brain, enough of those, what was organized so that you could put pieces of Lego together becomes disorganized, and now the knobbly bit is on its own again. So it becomes a reflexive action. And they know this to be true because then they'll talk about retained primitive reflexes. And I always think some of this terminology that we have is so unhelpful. So they are termed primitive reflexes, but that makes it feel not very human, even, not very Homo sapien, even. And it might be my perception, but I just think that the term is unhelpful. I just term them, they're just initial reflexes. And the reflexive element remains our whole life, but the automaticity of the reflexive movement gets softened and modulated through movement development. And what was organized can become disorganized with a bonk on the head. So we need to make sure, can that NFR player not play anymore because the timing element got knocked off? He's reflexively now wedded to a movement that he has no control over because it's reflexive again, instead of a complex movement pattern without automaticity. So we need to rehab the joints and the soft tissue, and we need to check to make sure that the Lego is not out of its box, disorganized with the knobble showing. We need it to all be organized and connected. So that's how the Lego story got emerged, because I was trying to explain this in clinic all the time, because what I was seeing was movement patterns that didn't seem to be anything related to joint mechanics or injury. It was, well, what's going on there? Why are they moving like that?
Yes. Now, Helen, it seems that your book, Even With Your Shoes On, is not only instructional. It feels like it's personal, reflective, and in a way deeply spiritual. I mean, what we have here is a philosophy, a poetic philosophy. Your writing includes quotes from Benjamin Franklin, one of America's founding fathers, physicist Richard Feynman, singers as well, singer India Arie, and John Wesley. I mean, even 50 Shades of Grey. This is an eclectic mix. I want to know, how do these diverse references fit into your approach towards mindset, running, movement?
Well, these eloquent writers, I feel when I was trying to get across a sense, a feeling, these writers had much more eloquence than I could access. I'm not a good enough writer yet. Maybe I don't practice enough, but they encapsulated. So the skill of a poet is to say something profound in very few words. Now, I babble and I use many, 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 many words. The book is 105,000 words. That was partly because I need a library of words to say the same thing, because not one way of describing things will resonate with everybody. So I've learned through coaching over the years, I have to have a whole library of saying exactly the same thing, but in different ways, and then something would land. So I use enough words already, and sometimes you hear a quote and you think, oh, that just hits the spot, because it's a sense and a feeling, not a doing. And the poetry of other people's words gave me the sense of the feeling of it all. Yeah.
Yes.
Does that explain it?
It does. It does perfectly. I used to be a writer, so I get it. I love the fact that your book includes QR codes throughout, leading to how to do videos. Which video is the most popular so far?
Yes. So it is the getting your head on right is the, and a maximum head rotation one. Those two, because it's they're on Vimeo, they're held on Vimeo, and they give me the stats. So people are very interested in getting their head on right, and to the extent that drill, the same drill, is described, I think it's 6 different ways. So it's the same drill, but I talk it through 6 different ways in order to get the message across to people.
Yeah, it says a lot that the most watched videos are about coordination and posture, not power.
No, and that and the feet mobilizations. They want okay, it's my feet, I'll go to the feet. And you think, no, it might be the feet, it might be something else. So you've got to keep going global, But yes, the sagittal cog described. So the sagittal cog is, I think I use names that help me remember it too. So the sagittal cog, which is getting your head on right, is the Amazon warrior with knock knees meets the hunchback with bow legs. And that describes...
Funny names.
Yes, that describes the joint mechanics in the whole system when viewed from the side, when upright.
Yeah.
Either with a spine extended or spine flexed. Yeah. So I have, I'm a little teapot, and is there poo on my shoe? Because it invokes the shape that I want people to think of as they're creating the shape, not just follow this. We are creating shapes. This is what we do. Our movement is patterning and shapes.
Yes. Helen, you combine data from advanced gait analysis with over 46 year experience of visual feedback. How would you place high-tech analysis versus old-school assessment tools like simply using your eyes or even intuition?
Not everybody has access to high-tech anything. I needed to know more. I needed to understand better. And so I just went all in.
With Doris?
With Doris.
Do you call her a she? Or a...
Yes, no, she's a she. Yes, she's definitely a she.
Amazing.
And the thing about... So somebody can be really good at static assessment. And with movement... With static assessment, you can get hands-on. But when somebody's moving, you can't stay with them with hands-on. You can't know what is happening inside that person's system as they're moving, because you would interfere with their movements. So yes, you can look. So in the field, I have to use my eyes without the tech all the time. You can use iPhones and cameras and slow it down and look. But you can't see in. And all of our learnings, what we learn from the anatomy books, anything to do with the musculoskeletal system, everything that we know is based on these laws, these rules of muscle attachments, direction of contraction, joint mechanics. So what I've learned by measuring it all is there is a massive leap from, if I see that, it equals this. And I would expect to see the same because I've learned the same things. And then I see, oh my goodness, it's not doing that. It's not following the rules. This skeletal frame is not following the rules of our musculoskeletal system and our joint mechanics. How very dare it? It's that. And so I keep seeing more and more. We think that's happening. We assume it is. We see it happening because our brain works by prediction. So we see what we want to see.
Yes.
And the reality is often otherwise. I once had a cranial osteopath come with her boyfriend and who had a knee problem. And everybody who looked at him said, oh, his spine is in a left lateral flexion, so a left banana. That's why his left knee hurts. He needs to be able to make a right banana, a right lateral flexion. And so everybody was sending him to the right and he wasn't getting any better. And his spine was not in a left lateral flexion.
Wasn't?
It was in a right lateral flexion, but it looked like a left lateral flexion. And she said to me, when she was with me, she said, because she came with her partner, if she hadn't seen it for her own eyes, she would have never have believed it. Yeah. So we think we know what's going on. And we might be right and we might not. Yeah. And X-rays currently don't measure you moving, nor do MRIs. And Force Kinetic, with lots of stickers, they also are limited in the information that comes out. So I found this technology developed by an engineer who worked in the radiography department back in the 70s in the scoliotic clinic, where they were x-raying the kids with scoliosis, a curvature of the spine, to see if the treatment protocol was working. And of course, unbeknownst to them at the time, giving the children a 400% chance of cancer from the radiotherapy. And he set about his life's work to create technology that could measure more accurately than an X-ray with no more radiation than a light bulb. And I just thought that was amazing. It took him until the 90s to do that. Then it took him till I think about 2010 for it to be more accurate than an X-ray in walking motion.
Yes.
And then until 2019 for up to 30 kilometers an hour. And as soon as I discovered the technology could be running, it was like, okay, I need to have that, please. How much do I need to sell my soul?
Remortgage my house.
Yes, indeed. And so that was my second iteration. So the first one was walking technology in 2014, and then 2019, Doris arrived, and Doris can measure.
When was Doris made?
Where? Germany,
of course.
German technology.
They don't do anything wrong. They can't make anything that's not functioning perfectly well.
Yeah. And it's still the drive behind the business. So Helmut Diers, who was the original founder, he's retired now, but he's still involved in the business, and his two sons have taken over. So they're still driving the business forward. It's incredible technology. And I learn every day. Every day is a learning day.
That's why you wrote, unless you're objectively assessing, you're guessing.
Yes. And that was slightly nicked from Paul Chek. So I did quite a few years of training with the Chek Institute. And he said, unless you're assessing, you're guessing. And the assessment tools back then, that was 2011, 12, I think time. The tools then were still manual tools, but at least you were getting a better idea. You weren't just eyeballing things. Because we think we know what we're looking at. And Germany did an amazing study. So Doris, she gives me marks out of 10 every day in clinic. I have to put 3 stickers on certain bony places. And if they're accurately placed, then she is more accurate than an X-ray up to 30 kilometers an hour. And I continually, regularly get the stickers in the wrong place. And I ask her to check. So I put the stickers on for the static measurements, and she doesn't need them for the static measurements, but I put them on to be marked so that I can make sure that the movement is accurate. And I do it because Germany said, we did a study. We had 50 different practitioners, all known to know their bony landmarks. And according to the technology, they had 50 different answers.
Oh.
So we think we're good. This is the problem. Our assumption of our knowing is not actually the reality.
Yes, it's so wrong perception of the brain.
Yeah. So I think we just we assume from our learning that we're better than we actually think we are, or we're better than we believe we are. So I just have to assume that I've got it wrong. Okay, Doris, can you check? And if I've got it right, yay, I'll take it. But it will be pretty random. It's extraordinary. We have to just put our egos in our boxes a little bit.
Yes, we do need that. And I can't help myself but to keep with the codes because they're all wonderful. The pain area, that's what you're saying. The pain area is the area doing the most work. Treat it with love. That's a very different perspective from the usual, let's fix the painful part, isn't it?
In clinic, people start stroking what they have been cursing. They have been cursing their right leg because their right leg has been giving them all this bother all these years. And then they realize that it wasn't the leg's fault. The leg was doing all the work. And actually, the problem was from maybe their shoulder girdle, restricting the movement of the pelvis and maybe commonly a spatial disorganization left to right. So they were hugging the midline and that side was being pulled more. So they end up spontaneously stroking instead of cursing the area of pain that they have been angry at all these years. And it's like, no, be nice, be kind. It's working really, really hard. If it's chronic and it hasn't responded to the standard protocols, it's probably because it's doing more than it wants to. Probably. There are still, we don't know, there are no absolutes, but it's probable.
Yes.
And I'm not the only one out there saying this at all. There are lots of modalities that are saying this. It just seems to still be within the big, the global world of movement. The old thinking seems to still be that of, we look at the painful area. Everybody is just looking with the blinkers on just at the painful area instead of the entire body. How does that painful area fit within the whole, statically and moving?